welcome in. I always start looking at that camera because we do that in the show, but when we come here on SportsSource.tv for our overtime segment, I always look there and should be looking here. Speaking of that, I forgot to pick something up. We're much more professional on the air than we are online. Hey, I tell you about Jimmy Andrews and Jinx logos right there. Told you they were doing some stuff for us. This is a great Nike jacket they've put together for us, Sports Source. They've got some with the SS logo, Sports Source. And that is a slick Nike jacket that they do. And the prices are tremendous. Jimmy Andrews and Jinx logos. Give them, I'm not going to get that dirty. We'll lay that right there. Give them a shout if you want promotional items for your crew, your sales team, whatever. Imagine if I got stuff for them instead of just for me. All right. How much should referees be blamed? There were the offsides call on the onside kick was wonky. There was a shot that looked on one of the Missouri touchdowns. It looked like the Missouri guy put his foot barely out of bounds. There was a bad interference call the other way that stopped a Missouri drive that was absolutely phantom. How much do you blame officials? And I'll start with the former players here.
If you ask me, I'm going to tell you like this. They're all bad, someone just worse than others. That's how I see it. You know what I mean? It's my opinion. They're out there in them weird outfits. They're asking to be noticed. And then when they do something wrong, it's going to be blasted all over the place. I mean, they have their job is to keep a game fair, keep within the rules. It's a hard job, and they don't get the leeway of being human. They just don't get it.
Right, and they are human. Just as a wide receiver is going to drop a pass, some guy having to look at something 100 miles an hour and make a call is going to miss it. That's just part of it.
I mean, at the end of the day, you have to look at it as that you're going to get some, you're going to lose some, you're going to be on one side or the other. It's just an excuse if you let them to say that they decided the game. I mean, and there's nothing you can do about it. So why are you even worried about that part of it? I think every good team goes in and says, at some point in a game, we're going to have to look at the officiating crew as the 12th man on the other side of the team. Can you overcome that, and can you beat that team still? Are you good enough to beat them? And you have to look at it that way because that's what's going to happen. Some games you're going to get more than you should.
The thing I talk to Bob Hodge every week. He's watching the Vikings lose. I'm watching the Patriots win. And we'll talk, and the thing is, up until the playoffs, then they'll lose. But we talk about the refs, and my view is always the same. And his view, I think, is pretty much the same, and that is you got to be better than the refs. You have to be better than the other team and the refs, which is exactly what you're talking about. If you don't want it left in the refs' hands, don't leave it in the refs' hands. Take care of the football. If Tennessee wasn't needing an onside kick in the final 2 minutes, you're not worried about being offsides on that one. Now, your guys' thoughts on officials and how much blame they should get when they mess up. I mean, do you say, nope, they cost them a game?
Imagine I'm going to disagree a little bit with y'all. Here's the deal. You can make up for a bad call in the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter. If an official makes a mistake in the last 20 seconds of a game, I do think that can have an outcome on it, just like a fumble. Just like an interception, just like a bad call by a coach. I think an official can determine the outcome. I saw a game many, many years ago. I was watching an NFL game. So a team winds it down. They kick a 40-yard field goal to win it. The guy clearly misses it, and the referee said it was good, so they won the game.
Hard to overcome that one.
It is. That determined the outcome. It's very, very rare. And only would I agree if it's at the end of the game. But I can't sit there and say, well, you should have made this play in the first quarter. That wouldn't have come down to field goal. I do think there are times when officials determine the outcome.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think you got to look at certain things should be reviewable too. I mean, it's the same thing with the play clock winding down. Did they get the field goal off in time? You're asking an official to look at a lot of things. You should keep you should keep the flag in your pocket on that offsides, kind of thing on an onside kick.
But they're specifically, I mean, that one's one they have to. You're going to see it called on onside kicks more than you are on a regular kickoff.
So, but I mean, we always hear coaches say 4 or 5 plays are going to determine the outcome of the game. It's up to us to make those 4 or 5. I think the referees are human, and look at how much technology has improved in the last 20 years, and these angles we get, and these slow motion replays, and these guys are just 20 years older that have the whistles.
And even. Go ahead, Will.
I just think, I agree. I mean, that official can determine the outcome, but at the same time, as a player, you always had to look at it from the perspective of if we give it to them in their hands. Florida 2000, official calls a phantom catch in the end zone. We lose the ball game, right? But we were in the red zone 5 times and kick 5 field goals
you let-
instead of scoring touchdowns.
And let Florida drive all the way down the field to get in position to make that play.
Exactly.
That's
So I mean,
the way
you
I
know,
look at it, too.
turn one of those into a touchdown, they're not even in the ball game. So I mean, I think overall you have to say what's in your control, and you know those guys are human. They're going to make some calls in your direction, and you're going to lose some calls.
Do
in
you
your
think
direction.
do
When
you
is it
think a
gonna
fumble
happen?
can cost you a game?
Oh, I do.
Do you think an interception can?
I do.
Then why can't an official?
Well, they can't.
I'm not saying it's necessarily
they
bad.
can,
I'm
but
just-
you need to
They
take care of
can,
business
but I'm
first.
saying
Just-
as an overall theme of how do you know, what are you going to do about that part is you have to say we have to put it out of that hand.
Yeah, it's not. Your job is to not let it come down to that.
Exactly.
Yes, exactly. Let me throw something else. One opinion very quickly, and then I'll give you a question and let you close. You mentioned replays. Everybody expects a replay to be perfect. Here's the problem. All you're doing is taking one guy's opinion on the field, and now we're going to get another person's opinion in the booth. I don't know how many times there was a play yesterday that was clearly a bad call that they reviewed it for 30 seconds, 60 seconds, and you're sitting there saying, all he needs is one look. It's still a pair of eyes and a human mind interpreting what they see on a field based on the television camera. And you put 100 people looking at the same thing, they're going to see it different ways.
Haven't you disagreed with the replay overturn?
Absolutely, yes.
I have too.
Yes, that's
and
my
I've heard
point.
Mike Pereira disagree with it, and
Yep.
I've heard experts in the booth disagree with it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're going to have disagreements even with replay.
Last question, guys, and this gets back to sort of the fourth quarter of games. Who here believes that in the fourth quarter of Chuck, you hit on it. Who here believes in the fourth quarter of a game or the last 10 minutes the refs should swallow their whistle and the rules in the first quarter don't apply in the last 10 minutes?
I don't.
I don't either.
I think you call the game consistently throughout. I can see maybe being a slightly more lenient, but I don't like the idea of if you throw a Hail Mary pass at the end of the game and 4 people interfere, okay, we're not going to call anything. We're just going to let them go decide it.
And I'm not saying swallow your whistle, but I think it has to be, to me, in that situation, an obvious call. Yes, I saw
blatantly obvious.
you know, that it's a clear cut and it affected the play. And if that's what you see, and that's what and John, I'd say this too. Anybody who's been down on the field or in a game, things happen so fast, and an angle you have is so much different than what these cameras bring. I just think you got to have something in place.
And that would be interesting. The things you can replay, you can stay the same, but maybe on some of those ones you can't replay, maybe you slow up on those and say it has to be obvious.
It has to be obvious.
Will, you touched on something in the show, and I want to quickly let you hit on it again here because you had more to say. And that is there was a time, for example, on that onside kick, the view, one guy got such a jump, Reeves Maven got such a jump that he might have been flagged because he looked like he was so far ahead of the guys. You had an experience like that.
Yeah, I've seen it at times where, you know, I've been in the case where I got a jump on the ball because I had a pre-snap read, and I would get called offsides just because I was faster than those guys were. But if you watch the tape, the ball was moving and I was moving. And so it becomes a part of that. If you're faster off of something, at times they will make the call because you're so different than everybody else, and that's why they make the call. They really didn't see you cross, but they're just using that key as, well, everybody else must have been the right. You're wrong.
Sterling, final word. Do you change the way you call a game in the last 10 minutes? Do you let
No.
the players decide it, or you keep flagging if it's
You
flagged?
be consistent. I'm with Jimmy on this. First time we agree in years. I mean, be honest. I
Maybe
agree.
years
You
before we
call it consistent. But bottom line is this. I love refs as people. Once they become refs, I don't like it.
I wonder what Rocky Good would say about that. You need to ask him that on Sports Talk tomorrow. All right. Hey, thanks to everybody for watching our overtime segment. Thanks for watching the Sports Source. You just made our past month the most watched month in the history of the show, which is fantastic. We appreciate that. And we hope you all have a great Thanksgiving. And we will see you right back here for a post-Vanderbilt discussion next week. Then we get into basketball season, bowl talk, hopefully. A lot of stuff to come on the Sports Source. See you next week.